Hello everyone, a very good morning to you and welcome to the Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli. Very early on a Saturday morning, very early to get qualifying underway for our round 2 of Ferrari Challenge for 2025. Here we are then, welcome to Misano. Very technical circuit and one that's very difficult to our opening round, which was at Monza. Here we are, Misano, before heading off to, it's about 750 kilometers to Hockenheim. Then it's Brno, then Valencia, Barcelona, Spa, Francorchamps, then the World Finals this year, the Finale Mondiale event, which will be held in Mugello. Right, let's take a look at this Misano circuit then, which is, as I say, something of a technical circuit, much more so than the Temple of Speed that we were at just a couple of weeks ago. And, of course, this also affording us the privilege to race at night as well. So very much looking forward to what this circuit has to offer. As you can see, some 16 turns, each and every one of them offering their own little test for our Ferrari Challenge drivers. The weather at the moment, 13 degrees. Air temperature 15 degrees. There's about 64% humidity, and the weather conditions over the days that we have been here have been absolutely lovely. It really has been almost an early start to summer here on the Adriatic coast. Very nice indeed. And all the drivers that will be taking part in this qualifying session are as follows: Paolo Scudieri, Boris Gideon, Andreas Koenig, Henrik Kamstrup, Shintaro Akatsu, Louis Peruskia, Guy Favet and Charles Chan. They make up just half of the pack, because they include Pino Frescaro, Alvaro Ramos, Fritz Muller, Germana Toniella. Welcome back to Andrea Levy, Sven Schirmer and Alexei Komarov. They are the drivers, some 15 of them that will take to the track for their qualifying session. And alongside me is my German colleague, friend and confidant, Nico Spalek. 30 minutes will be on the clock for these drivers to set the grid for what will be race 1. A lot of driving for these drivers to do today, a lot of talking for you and I to do today, because it is a big day across this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a big day. It is a different rhythm compared to other events, because we, as you say, do qualifying today in the morning for the race that will happen tonight under the lights, not quite after sunset, but it's going to be fairly late. And then we have another qualifying session around midday, early afternoon, and that will set the grids for the races tomorrow. 8 qualifying sessions this morning and midday, and then 3 races this evening, 3 races tomorrow. So it's going to be a lot of Ferrari racing action, and we're not complaining. We get to talk about great cars, and you will be able to experience everything that's great about the Ferrari Challenge in Europe. And we will, during the races, take a look across the pond to Japan, to Australasia, where 2 of the regions outside of Europe where the Ferrari Challenge is also racing, but there is many more.
Indeed, and indeed, this weekend they will be racing as we speak on a extraordinary circuit in Daytona. Yes, North American Challenge, and then just a couple of weeks before the UK Challenge gets underway in Spain. Make of that what you will, but it is the UK Challenge this year, having an away day to start the season. They will be racing in Navarra in Spain. So the tentacles, if you will, of the Ferrari Challenge One Make Series stretch far and wide across not only here in Europe, but the UK, Australasia, North America and Japan as well. Louis Peruskia was a guest of ours yesterday in our TV compound. Big thank you to everyone for making Louis so welcome. There's Alexei Komarov. Final stages of getting ready. Good morning, Alexei. Not that he can hear us, but the sentiment was there. And Alexei, one of the drivers that may well be joining us on the air over the course of the weekend, if ever they get a moment to breathe, because it's busy for them, it's busy for us. It's going to be a packed weekend. And something you made mention of at breakfast when we had to take breakfast at 3 a.m. this morning, I'm joking, was that actually the time will go oh so blooming quickly, won't it? Because, you know, everything will come so thick and fast, one after the other, qualifying sessions into racing and then more qualifying, and yeah, very, very interesting indeed.
Absolutely, and the time has passed in terms of preparation. Green light is at the end of the pit lane, which is dutifully ignored by all the drivers.
Say, no hurry at the moment, is there?
No, the first 25 seconds have ticked away with no cars having filed out of pit lane. The first car...
Please, may I have a guess here? Alvaro Ramos is going to be the first.
Shintaro Akatsu actually beat. He's the first driver who's out on his outlap, but and there we have him. You can see the lights, the sun still fairly low in this morning, and this is a first look at the turns and twists of this Misano circuit, which is interesting. It's one of the very, very few circuits in the world that changed racing direction during its existence. It used to be a counterclockwise direction that the drivers, and I mean especially also the motorcyclists, because obviously this is a traditional bike track. Marco Simoncelli, the great driver from local Cattolica here, who after whom the track died, was renamed after he sadly passed away. Sorry. Anyway, the track changed direction in 2006, and as Dave is having laughing fits, we have our first couple of cars out on the track and get this Copa Shell AM qualifying underway.
It was a huge weekend in Monza for Boris Gideon in this particular class, which is Copa Shell AM. Incidentally, the Copa Shell AM drivers all driving with the black strip across the top of the windscreen. It was the right royal flush for him because P1 in both qualifying sessions, P1 in both races. Easy. I mean, this track is so very different. But he was, I said he had the royal flush. It wasn't gifted to him. He had to work hard for it, Nico. And I am suspecting that he may find the challenges of this particular track will be difficult. We'll see what Boris can do. He has undoubted speed, undoubted ability. We'll see if he's able to replicate his success in Monza here. In Misano, as we continue to watch Shintaro Akatsu round the final bend then, and coming uphill now towards the start-finish straight to where our studio is located on the right-hand side of your picture. And it'll be a while before we get any meaningful lap times up there on the screen. But Shintaro Akatsu then, he took a podium, if memory serves me, in the first race at Monza, and in the second race we'll gloss over. There is Sven Schirmer, another very quick driver. Now, Sven Schirmer had a good time of it in race 2 at Monza, where he took a P2. He would have been on the podium in race 1 were it not for a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, he was very quick throughout the weekend, and it's going to be interesting effectively for all the drivers. Can they replicate what they did last time? Can they improve over what they did? You said Boris Gideon, royal flush. He was missing out on 1 point for one fast lap in one of the races.
Oh, right.
So it was almost a perfect points haul, but I think he'll be fairly happy with that. This is the man who took that 1 extra point away from him for the fastest lap in race 1.
Now, he took 2 P5s in the opening races, which I have to say, for Guy Favet that we're looking at right now, 2 P5s, I feel, is not just rewards for his efforts over the weekend, because in Monza he was supremely impressive. Some of the best driving I've seen from the Francorchamps Motors driver for a long time. I thought he and Monza seemed to gel together perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Paolo, good morning. Yeah. Paolo Scudieri gives us the thumbs up. Truly lovely gentleman, and again, another very good driver out there in the Ferrari Challenge, coached by the eternal optimist that is Stefano Guy himself, a former Ferrari Challenge driver and winner of many international competitions at the wheel of Ferraris is Stefano, and he looks after Paolo Scudieri. So let's run our clock for the first time on one of our drivers then, and it is Shintaro Akatsu, who was the first driver to show. So the graphics on the bottom of your screen, you can see the clock. And let's see what Shintaro is able to do. He's had a couple of kind of what we would consider installation laps, which are very important, because what that means and enables the drivers to do, bring the tyres up to speed, brakes up to speed, everything from a temperature point of view. And also, critically as well, get your own eye in, get to feel comfortable with the track, with the car, and what you can do.
Yeah, 100%. And Shintaro Akatsu is pushing once again in the first sector. oh, it's only 7 seconds quicker than the last time around. So, you know, prepare for an improvement in terms of time. You could say he's now in that stadium section.
Which is one of your favorite parts.
Yeah, or rather he's now approaching the stadium section. So this kind of long straight with a small kink in the middle that he approaches now is...
Nothing like a small kink in life.
Absolutely not. Taken full chat flat, and now he's in that triple right-hander stadium section, which is forms effectively the end and the third sector of the lap. Here is the penultimate, there is the right, and then there is that double left, which takes him out back onto the home straight. And you can be really, really aggressive with the curbs there, and here we are back on the straight almost. There is pit entry on the left-hand side, rounds that, and here you can see the grid boxes, and he takes the final few meters, and oh, it's only 13.5 seconds quicker than the last time around, so we're at a 1:38. Yeah, I think that's more like it.
I agree. Here comes husband of Mrs. Pino. It is Mr. Pino Frascaro. I know we wax lyrical about the character of the drivers that we have the privilege of working with, but there are none more characterful than Mr. and Mrs. Pino Frascaro, who I have to say are singularly responsible for my burgeoning belly, because of the delightful amounts of Swiss chocolate they tend to share with us at every event. So Pino then, who during the testing yesterday, P1 Nico. So Pino has obviously got the bit between his teeth and is going to be one to watch in qualifying at the moment. He has set personal bests across Sector 1 and Sector 2. And we'll see where that puts him overall in terms of the qualifying board when it gets towards the end of the lap. Target time of 1:38.474. So here comes the double left that Nico was talking about, which rounds out the lap. Turn 15 through, taking the curb out nicely, run it to the outside, and then quick dab of the brakes before taking the final left-hander. Then you do climb uphill towards the start-finish straight, and this is not going to be a time that troubles Shintaro Akatsu or Guy Favre, but I rather think that that was another install from Pino Frascaro. As Andrea, team boss, also looks on. And here we can see the 120 car of the Scuderia FMA driver Guy Favre, who's currently second fastest ahead of Alvaro Ramos, Louis Perusquia, then Pino Frascaro, but top of the table was the first driver to show, actually, out of the pit lane, Shintaro Akatsu.
Yeah, it was 7 seconds to the good of everybody else, but as we already said, still early going, still 21 minutes and change remaining. And for Guy Favre, obviously, 2 P5s, very, very good. You kind of feel like with Spa being the penultimate round of the season, that's going to be his big one, that he will try to do as well as possible on every round, but that's the one that he will hope to show his true ability the most. Improves his time is 3.5 seconds off the pace for the time being, as we switch to the 150 car of Alvaro Ramos. Also good showing and early showing from him, also in the 140s. Provisional P3, as we see more and more drivers now coming out of the pit lane with around 9 minutes elapsed of this session. Track limits is always a tricky thing in qualifying and in the races, and this Misano circuit really invites the drivers to try and take the maximum. There is very little in terms of gravel around the track. As I say that, we see the biggest gravel bed in center shot, but other than that, there is a lot of runoff area grass, so you're not necessarily beached in the gravel if you exceed the track limits, and there you can see lots of painted areas around the track, and that just invites the drivers. As Alvaro Ramos tries to prove me wrong every single turn that he can, it invites the drivers to be a little bit more liberal with them. Claudio Garavini in race control will have a very different opinion about that, and the drivers who exceed the travel limits will have their lap times deleted in qualifying, and in the race there are penalties coming up if you do it too many times.
Yeah, it was interesting because yesterday we were filming some pieces to camera and stood up in one of the tribunes or grandstands, if you will. And you know, what you've said is absolutely correct. It's almost like an invitation from the track itself to just draw the drivers so far as they possibly can without going just over the limits, because those track limits are important. And the great thing is, Nico, that from a consistency point of view, Claudio Garavini, who is the race director, he travels with everyone. He is part of the permanent install, if you will, at every circuit we go to. So the rules are applied in a consistent manner. It's a criticism of motorsport in some other series where, you know, maybe you have different race directors at different tracks and things, where rules can be interpreted and enforced in different ways. Absolutely no area for that negotiation when it comes to track limits and the Ferrari Challenge. You know where you stand, and that is 4 wheels over. You're going to get your bottom kicked.
Very
eloquently put.
Yeah, absolutely.
Articulated well.
Alexei Komarov keeps it within the track limits and improves from P8 to P7. In this qualifying session, if a driver is deemed to have exceeded the track limits, you will see that in graphics on the screen. It will say track limits and the time will stop counting, because obviously that lap won't be allowed to figure, as we have all the cars now, all 15 of them, out on the track. So with 18 minutes remaining in the session, 12 minutes elapsed, it's now a busy 4-kilometer track. As we have a look at Nana, Germana Toniella, currently P10, but on an improvement trajectory. If you watch the Ferrari Challenge in 2024, that livery will be very familiar to you. It was driven, that very car, by her husband, Zoe Scrimpius, who took the championship in this class in Copa Shell AM and was elevated to Copa Shell. And we will see him in a few moments' time as Germana Toniella comes up on traffic, and that means her effort to really get up the order has been somewhat compromised.
She still has improved 3 places, and of course she may have got just a little bit of a benefit from the draft off the car in front of her, to be fair, which dragged her across the start-finish line and perhaps gave her a little boost or two. We're on board with her very team, the Reparto Corsa Ram team. As right now we pick up on the number 150 car of Alvaro Ramos from Portugal. Very distinctive livery, and great to see Alvaro into his 2nd season in the Ferrari Challenge. Did a great job in season 1 and is improving still further. He's already 5th fastest in qualifying, and his sector 2 was a personal best, so this may see a slight improvement across his lap, which Shintaro Akatsu, having led for pretty much half of the qualifying session, has brought the car into the pit lane, hence the P against the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen indicates when a driver is in the pit lane. It's 4.236 kilometers, this track. 16 turns, 6 left, 10 right. I suppose we're about an hour and a half from Bologna, depending on traffic. Make that 4 hours then.
And driver.
And driver. Two and a half or so from Florence. It was actually first designed back in 1969, Nico, with an original length of 3.488 kilometers. I know you were mentioning how they reversed the direction of travel, didn't they? Which is not a feat of a moment when you make that decision.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They extended the track to a greater length afterwards, and then the reversal of the direction was made. And then obviously we've had this track along the Adriatic coast for quite a long time, and it's seen quite a share of great racing in the Ferrari Challenge and other categories. 4 wheels, 2 wheels, no wheels.
We've been here with the DTM, I remember.
We have had night races here with the DTM, with the Ferrari Challenge.
I also remember.
And we look forward to this slate of evening race.
Hope you're well. There's a very good chance that you'll be watching former Ferrari star, of course, Gerhard Berger, and once very much the headmaster in the DTM.
Absolutely.
Great guy. Great guy.
He's on the penultimate turn, the last blast off the throttle before he takes the final turn, runs out very wide. It's an invitation here to exceed the track limits, which is especially excruciating if you're on a good lap.
Oh, what an improvement from Paolo, Nico, from P11 to P4.
Absolutely.
There's Stefano, his driver coach. We were mentioning, forgive me interrupting you, Stefano Guy. There he was. And this, if memory serves, is Sven Schirmer.
Blue and yellow livery, P7 for the time being, but you said it, he will have very, very good pace back in Monza, and he's showing good pace here again in the no longer early stages of this qualifying session. Doesn't quite run all the way out to the end of the track, which means P7 becomes P1, less than a tenth to the good of Shintaro Akatsu.
And what that proves, Nico, is if you were watching the color bars as I was, you don't need 3 purple sectors.
He didn't even have a single
one.
Yeah.
And he was still better. Here comes Charles Chan then, also looking very good. It's all changing. Shintaro Akatsu relegated to P2, who responds by coming out of the pit lane like a firework, thinking, I'm not going to have some interloper taking my P1 away. So it is Sven Schirmer, Shintaro Akatsu, Charles Chan, then is Henrik Kamstrup, Andreas Koenig, who didn't have a brilliant Monza and is hoping for better times of it here in Misano. He's currently P5. Then it's Alexei Komarov as Charles Chan goes P1, Nico, taking a full half a second out of the previous time from Sven Schirmer. It's all changing in the second half of this qualifying session, making it blisteringly exciting for us, and we hope also for you as we bring you the runners and the riders. Here's Alvaro Ramos, who is probably further down the order than he would like to be, P13 at the moment. Sven Schirmer is responding, Nico, with purple and blue Sector 1 and Sector 2.
Just been pushed down to P3 by Henrik Kamstrup. We're just on the edge of the 135, so 136.048 for Charles Chan. And will Sven Schirmer be the first in the 135? Yes, is the answer. Barely. 7/1000ths of a second, but he did it, and that is enough for P1 for the time being, but lots of challenges, and ooh, that was a challenge and maybe a little bit too much there.
Fritz Müller.
Yeah, Friedrich, by his birth certificate, prefers to be called Fritz, and we do him the favor. So Fritz Müller didn't do himself a favor with that attempt at that turn, but no impact, and therefore can go again. And 2 or 3 turns later, the tires will be clean again, and he can go again and try to improve on his time. There is Nana Toniela.
We were seeing on our timing screen a number of times being wiped out by track limits. That's impacting Andreas Koenig and also Andrea Levy, who we welcome back into the Ferrari Challenge for this round. Was missing at Monza, but is back in full effect right now. We split the screen and show you the pit wall of the Ineco Reporter Casa Ram team, and their driver Germano Toniela out there, who is currently P10 and sets a personal best through Sector 2, so this could be an improvement from Germano personally. Still about a second down on the pole time from Charles Chan at the moment, but Germano then, made of stern stuff, a feisty young lady if ever there was one, and really driving so well. Let's see what Germano is able to do at the conclusion of this lap. Just one more turn to do. There it is, the left-hander, and now full chat flat all the way to the timing line from P10. Germano Toniela stays P10. I built that up really rather well.
Yeah, well, you did. Sven Schirmer also built it up really well, and he completed his lap with a 1:35.286. That puts him more than half a second to the good of everybody else for the time being. So we said it, he has got the pace, and he is proving that in this first 20 minutes of this quality session. He's going again. Good time, not an improvement on the first sector, but still very much pushing.
Now, bear in mind that the tyres that the drivers are qualifying on are the tyres that they will be racing on. So there comes a point where risk-reward means, are you better off going for a quicker lap to give you a grid position advantage, or are you better off keeping the tyres to give you tyre longevity in the race? Max Blancardi, who is Sven Schirmer's driver coach, will have that factored into his mind and into how Sven is doing out there. And when when Max feels it's right, he'll bring Sven in. I'm sure of that, Nico.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why you have a driver coach, not only to give you some advice on where to push and where to be aggressive and where to position the car for a given turn, but also in terms of race strategy, because obviously the driver is preoccupied with the moment, everything that he has to do to pedal the car, and the driver coach will be focused on what his protege is doing, but he has a little bit more the overall big picture, the other cars which are on the track. We talked about track limits, and one driver who got his excellent lap deleted was Andreas Koenig, and he is now pushing again. First sector was good, second sector excellent, so expect Andreas Koenig to move up the order in a few moments' time.
Well picked up, Nico, you're absolutely right. And Andreas Koenig has already proved his prowess, because he was another one of those drivers that had the quickest time overall in one of the free practice sessions. So he goes, I believe, to P2. He has gone to P2, just 7/100ths behind Sven Schirmer, so it's very, very close. Here's Paolo Scudieri also looking for an improvement. Sector 1 and Sector 2 were probably not where he would like them to be.
No, not necessarily, but we've got still 8.5 minutes plus whatever lap you are on, so Paolo still very much in this, not necessarily on this lap. Another driver who had a lap deleted was Andrea Levi. He also made up for that. He's moved up to P4 overall. Shintaro Ankatsu, who was leading for quite a significant portion of the session, has been relegated to P5, so we expect him to try and respond, as we see Pino Frescaro and Guy Favre dancing ballet on the back straight, finding track space, and finding lack of track space in this incident is Pino Frescaro.
Just kept it out of that little tyre and Armco barrier. Well done, Pino. Good navigation there, friend.
Yeah, and that's the pit exit. That would have been a very unassuming driver coming out of the pits just to be met by the Pino Frescaro 296. Unfortunately, no such incident, and therefore the session can continue unabated. Talking about unabated,
yes.
Paolo Scudieri.
Yep. P8 at the moment, but look at the S1 bar on the graphics at the bottom of your screen. It's coloured blue. That means that he's gone quicker than he's ever gone through that sector before. Now, S2 is coloured dark grey, which means Sector 2 has not been quite as good for him. Let's see what colour he makes Sector 3, which will be at the conclusion of the lap, and will he be able to better his P8 time? I rather suspect not right now. So Paolo Scudieri, at the moment, if everything were to finish right now, would be starting on the 4th row of the grid. One more turn to do through that left-hander, which you take very, very quickly indeed, and shortcut to the start-finish line, go as quick as you can across there. And as I predicted, Nico, that middle and final sector were not what he needed. And there is his driver coach, Stefano Guy, just saying, look, you can find time in Sector 2, you can find time in Sector 3. Now, Boris Gideon, who was P1 in both the qualifying sessions last time around at round 1, finds himself P4, Nico, and the sector times at the moment are not pointing to Boris Gideon, the Autohaus Ulrich driver, actually being as dominant here, which, dare I say it at the risk of blowing smoke up my own bottom, I kind of said this is going to be a very different circuit, Nico, and with just 6 minutes remaining, he's coming into the pit lane. I just think we've probably seen the best of Boris in this qualifying session.
Well, we'll see. We have seen that in Monza, where the drivers came in at a very late stage and they just had the tire pressures adjusted a little bit, because they may have felt that it had built up too much compared to how
Possibly.
it was previously, and went out again. So we will see. But, I mean, just remember, this is the first time that the Ferrari Challenge with the 296s in Misano. So also for the teams, there is very little data and experience that they can draw from. So, you know, for the teams it's also difficult. They can't hit the setup perfectly for one track, and not necessarily for the next.
He's not going again, Nico. He's pointing the car. Kevin Chechon, his driver coach, they're pointing the car towards the back end of the garage, and that's where it's going.
Yeah. Andreas Koenig, we see he edged closer on the last lap to Sven Schirmer. The gap was only 4/100ths, but it is P2, and he has to find those 4 and a little bit of 100ths of a second. not necessarily on trajectory to do it this time around. And there comes the point you mentioned. Is it worth going from P2 to P1 if you have to overstress the tires over the remainder of this quali session, putting you at a disadvantage for the race later on? We will see.
It's a really, really interesting decision, isn't it? The Ferrari Racing driver Andreas Koenig then, who is in an unfamiliar livery. Normally he has that beautiful green, red and white color scheme. However, all red for the moment. That will change, he tells us, when we head next to Germany and the Hockenheim circuit, as Andreas Koenig crosses the timing line and does not improve, but only a tenth and a bit down, Nico, on that Sven Schirmer time. So as it stands with 4 minutes to go, it's Schirmer and Andreas Koenig who will be sharing the front row of the grid, but this driver, Andrea Levy, in the number 170 car, would like to be splitting those or even pushing them both back. Is he going to do it this time around? Well, we're running the clock. We'll take a look at those sector times. He's 6.5 tenths down through sector 1 for the Radici Automobili best lap team. Delighted that Andrea Levy is back again.
Absolutely, and Shintaro Akatsu, we mentioned earlier, he just put in the faster time, improved slightly in terms of his timing, although not position. But his next lap is not looking particularly good, so he might be someone who would still like to be elevated from that P6 position, but probably not on this lap. And I think something along the same lines applies to Andrea Levy. Still got 3 minutes remaining. Honestly, the timing screen doesn't scream personal and overall best for the time being, so even though obviously with the sun out, the track evolving, in theory, we should be able to see quicker times. It's not the case. And Andreas Koenig got a lap deleted because of track limits in turn 8. It hasn't...
So that will be the lap he's on now rather than the previous lap that gave him P2.
I'm not sure. I think his second best lap time was still good enough for P2 or P3, but we will see once the timing screen updates, and you will see it on the graphics left-hand side. I don't think it's the current lap, but we'll see.
Okay.
This is our pole setter, one way or the other, for the time being, Sven Schirmer.
With 2.25 minutes remaining, the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg driver Sven Schirmer is currently P1, and he's not looking to improve. Nico slowed the car right down and is bringing that to the pit lane, I would suggest. So Sven Schirmer then, who really has thrown everything at it. And as I said right at the beginning of the program, the P7 and P2 that Sven took in Monza really didn't perhaps fully illustrate just how good he was at Monza, and it would have been an altogether different story if he hadn't had that drive-through penalty in race 1. Andrea Levy picks up a track limits penalty. He's P3 at the moment. Boris Gideon P4, then Charles Chan. And is this where the penalty would have been applied? I really rather think so. Yes, all 4 wheels just across the white lines that delineate the track. And once you've done that, then it will be picked up, because race control have got so much data and so many cameras. I mean, we think we're lucky with, I can't remember how many cameras we have around the track here for broadcast purposes to bring you this brilliant show. It's a lot, but there's even more from race control. They can pick up on absolutely anything. There's no getting away with it. Paolo Scudieri on an improvement trajectory through Sector 1, not so through Sector 2. Where is Paolo at the moment? P8, so it would be a 4th row start for Paolo Scudieri. I think I said that a little while ago, so clearly he is steadfast on that P8 position at the moment. Is this going to be an improvement? Rounds the final turn and heads towards the timing line with 20 seconds about left to run. He could go again should he so desire. And Paolo loses time in Sector 2 and Sector 3. He's about a second and a half down on our provisional pole setter, Sven Schirmer. Oh, gets very sideways there. That will have cost him some valuable 100ths of time. And another car with a lap time deleted is that car of Henrik Kamstrup, the Formula racing driver. There is Sven Schirmer then. Knows that he has done everything he needs to do. And I can't see anyone besting Sven Schirmer's time. I think the P1 is his as Andrea Levy once again explores the limits within which he can push that 296 car and indeed the limits of the track as well. Oh, getting sideways through the final turn, really aggressive on that, and that will have cost him some time. The checkered flag is out. There's no one setting purple or even blue sectors. That, for me, Nico, says that our pole sitter is going to be Sven Schirmer, although Andreas Koenig is on a lap. It's not a lap that's going to trouble him, I don't think. It will be a front row start for Andreas Koenig, but perhaps not the pole position that he was targeting.
Yeah, no, it's a good showing from him, good time again, but P2 and the front row start as Henrik Kamstrup is one of the drivers who's still pushing down in P9, and there we pick him up and you can see 2 personal bests. So half a second off the pace through 2 sectors, but that means he's still got very much an improvement in himself. There he is actually. And he rounds the final turn. He'd have to finish 1:35.7 or something to really make a difference. And indeed, he pushes up to P5, edging Charles Chan into P6. And that was a last moment, last ditch effort. Yes, indeed.
Sven Schirmer knows now that it is confirmed that he has taken P1. So well done, Sven Schirmer. Pole position. And his first pole position this season, I think. Did he take a pole at Monza? I don't. No, he didn't, because it was both of them were
Boris Gideons.
Boris Gideons. So well done, Sven Schirmer. Confirmation of the results on screen for you right now. Sven Schirmer takes P1 ahead of Andreas Koenig. Andrea Levy P3, Boris Gideon P4, then it was Henrik Kamstrup, Charles Chan, Shintaro Akatsu and Pino Frascaro. Very good qualifying, Pino, well done, P8. He'll be on the 4th row of our Copa Shell and grid come race time for race 1. We continue because P9 goes the way of Paolo Scudieri. It's Alexei Komarov P10 ahead of Germano Toniela, Fritz Muller, Guy Favet, Alvaro Ramos and Louis Perusquia. That's the way qualifying went for our Copa Shell AM drivers from the Ferrari Challenge. We have more qualifying action to come this morning. Make sure you stick with us here. From Nico and from myself for the moment, thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Hello everyone, welcome back to Misano. It's round 2 of Ferrari Challenge Europe, and you join us as qualifying is getting underway here for the races to come across today and tomorrow. A bit of a novelty today, as we've got 2 sets of qualifying sessions, because we will be racing late on in the day here at Misano. The floodlights affording the opportunity for drivers to take to the track as the light is beginning to ebb. So, as I mentioned, this is round 2. From here we go to Germany. It's the Hockenheim Ring. Then it is off to Brno in the Czech Republic, then Valencia and Barcelona for rounds 5 and 6, a double header, if you like, in Spain. Then Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, ahead of the Finale Mondiale in Mugello towards the end of October. That's the way our calendar looks for 2025. How does this track look then? Well, it's 4.236 kilometers long, 16 turns, 6 of them left, 10 of them are right-handers, and it is quite a testing circuit for our drivers, where track limits might prove to be an issue during this qualifying session, as it did in the Copa Shell AM qualifying session we had but a few moments ago. Already the temperature is increasing. We have a track temperature of 20 degrees, an air temperature of 16 degrees at the moment, and this qualifying session is but 20 minutes long, because we split both Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers from a qualifying point of view. They will be racing together. But the drivers that have the red strips across the top of the windscreen and red on their graphics, as you can see here, are the drivers that we'll see out there at the moment, including Yasin Ferrari, Max Mugelli, Quinn Wiedlisbach, Björn Grossman, Felix Herziger, Luigi Coluccio, Gilles Renmans, and Vincenzo Scarpetta. Those are the drivers that will be out for the first 20 minutes. And Nico, it was in round 1, the Trofeo Pirelli category did not deliver what we expected in terms of drivers that won the races, because it was very much something of a rookies showdown, wasn't it? As very, very successful, the likes of Gilles Renman, Dylan Medler taking the second race win. Dylan not here. He's racing at the moment in Daytona, because he races both in Europe and North America, and choosing to go into Dylan's home country, if you will, of North America this weekend, where he is Trofeo Pirelli champion. There's Yasin Ferrari, who was feeling really poorly at Monza, and I think his results reflected that. There's Max Mugelli, ready to go out. So it is our Trofeo Pirelli drivers that have 20 minutes, and there are 8 of those drivers to get out there and qualify as the light at the end of the pit lane goes green right now.
Yeah, indeed. It was a topsy-turvy sequence of races in Trofeo Pirelli, especially for the Pirelli class, with penalties playing a part, reshuffling the field, where for the race 2 we had 3 drivers who were battling for the top positions, had to come in, take a drive through because of an incorrect starting alignment. So those 3 continued to battle among themselves for the remainder of the race, really creating very interesting or unforeseeable race results. Björn Grossman had great pace in the races, not necessarily in the qualifying, which meant he had to do a lot of overtaking in the race, which he did. But he will certainly hope that he will put himself in better starting positions in the qualifying sessions here in Misano.
Yes, Björn Grossman, a very, very talented driver. Luigi Coluccio we're looking at right now in the number 45 car. Luigi then, another young talent in the Ferrari Challenge, who his results from Monza really not reflective of his talents. His best result was a P6. We're expecting and imagining more from Luigi Coluccio. Felix Herziger, we can see making way down the pit lane. That's a very, very dynamic livery across that 296 Challenge car. The mix of orange and blue is something very special indeed. Now, Gilles Renman's very, very impressive for me, Nico, in Monza. P1 in race 1, P5 in race 2, has taken to this Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli like the proverbial duck to water.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's fair to say that Trofeo Pirelli this year is so wide open, and Monza already was a testament to that in terms of both qualifying and the races, the results being shuffled, and a minimum mistake here, not ideal setup there, can be the difference between row 1 and row 3. So really, really close and competitive, and who will emerge victorious today or for the season is really anybody's guess.
You're right. There is Luigi Coluccio, who I was extolling the virtues of, accompanied by guard dog Luigi then, who will be interesting to see how he goes during this qualifying session. So Max Mugelli is making his way down the pit lane, as you can see, in the CDP Eureka competition number 3 296 challenge car. And as I mentioned, 8 drivers who are going to be out there on track, and it's going to be Felix Herziger and Max Mugelli who are the first drivers to make their tentative steps around this 4.2 kilometer circuit here in on the Adriatic coast in Italy. Beautiful location for a racing circuit. I've had the privilege of being here on a number of occasions, and it's delivered certainly some storylines to follow in terms of racing. This is Quinn Veitlis back. Quinn joined us in the 488 Challenge last year and has been elevated quite rightly into the very top class of Ferrari Challenge racing with the 296s. And Quinn, very much another young talent. Now, what did he do at Monza? Well, it was a P5 and a P7, and again, perhaps not reflective of what we imagine we will be seeing. Here's Vincenzo Scarpetta, who was on the podium twice. I mean, if consistency is worth anything, Vincenzo did a very, very good job taking a brace of P3, so double podium for Vincenzo last time.
Yeah, he's the only one to claim double podium in the Pirelli, which just shows how competitive and equal and balanced it was. And I mean, just look at the results emerging from Monza. It's Gil Renman with 23 points, Björn Grossman 21, Yassin Ferrati 21, Vincenzo Scarpetta 21.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to say much more. And there is Dylan Medler, as you said, not claiming points here as he's racing in North America at 18 points. So it is so balanced. So that will certainly change this weekend, certainly in terms of the point numbers. But who will be on top tomorrow midday? We'll find out.
We will. So the first 5 minutes of this qualifying session have gone already. This is Max Mugelli that we're running the clock on now, the CDP Eureka Competition driver. Max Mugelli with a P6 and a P8 from the first round. And I think it's fair to say, and I don't think Max would be offended if I say he's one of our more senior Trofeo Pirelli competitors, but nonetheless competitive for that. And you certainly don't ever bet against Max Mugelli, who can turn it on when it needs turning on and can deliver a result, that's for sure. Will he be able to do so here at Misano? Well, time will tell. 14 and a half minutes of this qualifying session remaining. He's weaving from side to side, would suggest that he's still considering this an installation lap before he really goes for a hot lap. So probably still more to come from Max Mugelli than the time he's going to post. Yeah, he's not to race speed on this lap, I would suggest, or up to quali speed. Of course, Sector 1 and Sector 2 are being coloured purple because it will be the first real meaningful time to show. But more to come from Max Mugelli by dint of, as you say, or as I said, you know, you could see him weaving from side to side, regenerating that temperature into those Pirellis. He's got one more turn to do before he will complete this lap, but it's a time that I think will be eclipsed by many times during the course of the session. A 1:37.4. We expect them to be significantly lower than that come the end of the session. There is Tina, Max's partner, looking on, an ever-present and very much driver of the... I love those shots. Very much driver of the team. Max, of course, having to go out there and pedal the car. And he's doing that to a time of 1:37.470 at the moment. Now, weaving from side to side vigorously, if that's the apt description, is the driver of the number 1 car, Yassin Ferrati. Of course, he's driving for a very famous team, the ML Fry racing team, who have had much success. And that's a nice onboard shot of one Mr. B. Grossman, I believe. Or is that Yasin? Well, perhaps it was Yasin.
Difficult to tell from inside, but anyway, as you say, Ferrari Racing engineer Yasin Ferrati, they also engineer Quinn Wittelsbach in this Pirelli class, and there you can see Yasin Ferrati on the outside. There is the Björn Grossman car.
So it was Björn.
That Yasin went past. And I mean, we're still about 2.5 seconds or 2 seconds away from the best time set in Copa Shell AM just a few minutes ago. So
yeah,
there is certainly still lots of air in the very best times, and we can already see Yasin Ferrati improving. First second was already a second quicker than the last time around. That tendency or trajectory is certainly continuing through Sector 2 as he now gets into that final part of the track, that stadium section.
There's a story to tell with regards to Yasin, who I first met a couple of years ago, Nico, in sim racing. And there's been much talk, hasn't there, about how drivers can develop their skills with sim and esports, and how that can really, really transfer to real-world racing. And here is an example of that as Yasin Ferrati goes P1. So as I say, a couple of years ago, first met him, and he was then doing esports sim racing, and now he's driving in the Ferrari Challenge and driving very well.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just that once upon a time it was only karting, effectively. That
yes.
was the way into the upper echelons of motorsport, and now karting is still there and still has a very, very important part in our motorsport world. But as we see, sim racing is getting more and more important. There's a Ferrari sim racing series and so many other championships on different simulations, which provide the teams with a great opportunity to scout the drivers, because obviously they kind of have an understanding of at least the driving part, not necessarily as much the technical side of racing in terms of the actual setup of a physical racing car, but that's why you have engineers, and the drivers certainly have to have an understanding of what goes into making a car faster or more efficient in terms of setup.
Well, that relationship is very, very important, because the engineers rely on the feedback from the drivers, and so it has to be a relationship. Felix Herziger has gone P1, and he's taken significant time out of Yasin Ferrati, who indeed Max Mugelli has done the same. Now we're riding on board here with the Octane 126 driver Björn Grossman. Now Björn is one of those drivers who we've known for a lot of years, Nico. And I think Björn is one of those drivers also that you can rely on always delivering 100% and always winning. He's the sort of driver that actually he could be out there in a wheelbarrow rather than a Ferrari 296 Challenge car, and he'd still stand a chance of winning. He's that good a driver, and dare I say it, sometimes I think Björn is a really good example of that talent not having been recognized. And you know, there's one championship in the Ferrari Challenge that has eluded him, and is this year going to be the year to finally get that proverbial monkey off his back? It could be, Nico.
No jinxing from this end. No jinxing, but yeah, absolutely. There is still one box that needs to be checked for him, as Felix Herziger again goes quicker than last time around, a 1:32.688, so we're already 3 seconds almost quicker than the Copa Shell AM best times, and that was only 25 minutes ago. So as Gilles Renman now currently in P5 tries to move up the order, and does indeed, is now P2, as all our 8 competitors in Trofeo Pirelli are out on the track. It's a 4-kilometer long track, so in theory there's enough space for all of them.
In theory.
But with 8.5 minutes remaining, you only need one car to be in an opportune position while you are going through a turn, and that can royally ruin your lap with a gap so small, and the margins for error minimal, as Luigi Colucci puts it on P4. It really has to come together for you to really be at the sharp end of this quali session.
Felix Herziger from Gilles Renmans, from Max Mugelli, and already we are seeing track limits begin to have an impact, and Quinn Wiedlisbach is the first of those to fall foul of our race direction in terms of track limits. Keep it within the white lines, guys. And let's ride right on board with the very car that has exceeded the track limits, Gilles Renmans, Francorchamps Motors Brussels. And we're joined by our esteemed television producer, Andrea Montali. Good morning to you.
He's giving us interesting intel, and the intel he's giving us is whoever is fastest in this session will be on pole position. No, actually, we knew that already. No, he was giving us valuable intel for the races later on, as he and his team do a brilliant job of giving us and you these fantastic images of the cars on the track. As Luigi Coluccio in the final sector, 2 personal bests currently in P5, looking for an improvement. Traffic certainly not an issue for him for the remainder of this lap. The left-hander, the first one, pit entry to the left-hand side, but he ignores that and goes through past the final turn, heading for the timing line. P6 for Luigi Coluccio, turns into P2 with an overall purple final sector.
Well called, Luigi Coluccio then, who I hope I wasn't bigging him up too much at the beginning of the program, but I really don't feel that we saw the best of Luigi in Monza. Will we see the best of him here in Misano? Right now, here comes Yasin Ferrari, P4 at the moment, and Sector 1 was not where Yasin would want it to be. He can make up time in Sector 2 and Sector 3, have no doubt about that. But when we get the cumulative time, it will be interesting to see how he's down on the Felix Herziger time. And not only that, he's just done a track limits as well. So that really has hampered any effort that Yasin has put into this lap. It's Herziger from Coluccio, from Renmans, from Mugelli, from Björn Grossman. Then it's Yasin Ferrari. Then it's Quinn Wiedlisbach and Vincenzo Scarpetta. So Luigi Coluccio going quickly, Yasin Ferrari then, as I say, I'm not sure the Yasin Ferrari time will count because I think he's picked up a track limits in the first sector. So he heads towards the timing line now. He's going to break the timing beam, and from P6, Yasin Ferrari on track goes to P4. So it'll be a second row start. Here's Luigi Coluccio, who stays P3. No, he improves a place to P2. And here is Max Mugelli, currently P5, and he's in the second sector right now. Another lap time deletion. This time goes the way of Vincenzo Scarpetta, the Radici Automobili driver. So at the top end, it is Herziger and Luigi Coluccio, I would suggest, that are 7 100ths apart from fighting for the additional point that a driver gets for pole position, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. There is Max Mugelli, who we follow as Luigi Coluccio. First sector, once again, very, very good. Max Mugelli, he was one of those who didn't quite make it up to the top battles in Monza, so he's certainly looking to rectify that and be at the very sharp end of the sessions and the races when they come later today in the evening and tomorrow. But for now, he's P5 and he will try to move up the order. Not quite there yet.
We are seeing quite a lot of track limits come up now, including for Felix Herziger, our driver that is provisionally P1. Also for Gilles Renmans, who is P3. And also for car number 90, driven by Vincenzo Scarpetta. So dare I say it, Nico, the Trofeo Pirelli drivers are pushing and pushing and pushing as hard as they can, but they're pushing beyond the limits of the track, which you run a risk. And the risk in qualifying is that immediately your lap time is deleted, but no such dramas for Luigi Coluccio, who goes P1 with a time of 1:32.567. The margins between the top drivers in this wonderful Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli category is tiny. We are talking about a tenth, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you would count those laps which have been deleted, it would be even closer.
Yes.
Because the likes of Björn Grossman, Vincenzo Scarpetta all had very, very good lap times, which didn't count. So it will be interesting. The pace is certainly there for effectively all the drivers to go in the 133s or maybe even the 132s. But even with 8 cars on track, the 20 minutes really mean that you have to put it all together, and it can go wrong very, very easily. So let's see, Felix Herziger, he had a very, very good lap time of 132.688, which is good enough for P2 for the time being, but he won't feel safe and he won't feel satisfied either. He wants to move up the order, or at very, very least retain his position. And he was just off the pace through 2 sectors, but still in with a shouting chance. It's only 1/10.
1/10 down. Dare I say it, drivers out of position at the moment from this qualifying session include Björn Grossman, Nico. It's P6. Now, P6 is a 3rd row start, and we know how well Björn can overtake drivers, but clearly for this qualifying session, he's just not got all his ducks in a row. Here's Quinn Veitlisbach, who's P8 at the moment. Now, Quinn Veitlisbach, very talented young driver with Emil Frey Racing, has put a personal best in through Sector 2, so the improvement is coming, but it's coming at the very late stage of this qualifying session, because he's only going to be able to put 1 more lap in, Nico, when he crosses the timing line, because we are down to 1:33 remaining on the clock. So he's got this lap plus 1 more, I would suggest.
Yeah, absolutely. And our P7 and P8 drivers are both pushing for an improvement, and that would potentially, Quinn with an improvement in terms of time, but not in terms of position. So he has to do that 1 more lap and try to make that count. Björn Grossman, in the meantime, moves up to P5. Still not where he would like it to be, but
it's better.
Certainly better than P7, but he too has that 1 more attempt. Felix Herziger, he is still on a good lap, but not necessarily on an improvement trajectory. He needs that 1 more lap if he wants to go to pole position at speed cam.
Love it.
Blanco barriers, really showing the cars going, squeezing past. And there is the Octane 126 pit purge with Christian Bertschinger. Shared a flight from Zurich to Bologna.
Oh, okay.
With him, and we were talking about that he felt like there would have been even more in the Monza weekend with a little bit more luck, but certainly good results for the first round of the season. Luigi Coluccio, his last time identical to the 1,000 to the last time of Felix Herziger, but he had that 1 lap that already was better than that, so we're not in a dead heat here.
Yeah, the checkered flag is out on the session. Anyone that is still on a lap can retain and stay on that lap. But at the moment, I don't see anyone troubling the Rosso Corsa driver, Luigi Coluccio, Nico.
No, Quinn Veitlisbach just moved up from P8 to P7, relegating Vincenzo Scarpetta to P8. He is still in there with a chance to improve. His first sector, decent, not necessarily a significant improvement, but still in there with maybe the only driver who can move up the order, but no. Second sector wasn't quick, and that means our results that you can see on the graphics on the left-hand side will be the results at the end of this session.
So it is Luigi Coluccio then who... Well done, Luigi. I'm pretty happy about that, because I was really sending it for you at the beginning of the program, and you've delivered. Delivered for Rosso Corsa, and there is Andrea, team principal of Rosso Corsa, taking a photograph of that, which he will doubtless have framed and presented to Luigi Coluccio, his driver, who has gone P1, Nico, for our Trofeo Pirelli cars. And of course, Pirelli AM will be out for their 20-minute qualifying session momentarily. It's going to be a very exciting and demanding race for our Trofeo Pirelli drivers, who will be driving in the dusk tonight. And yeah, with a couple of drivers perhaps out of position for qualifying, it's going to make it all the more enticing and exciting, I would suggest. Luigi Coluccio doing a good job indeed, putting it P1. There you can see the cars into the garages then in the pit lane. Our commentary studio is located just above those cars that you can see. And in fact, if we were to wave right now, you would see us live, but we didn't, so you can't. We'll bring you confirmation, and as if by magic, there it is. Luigi Coluccio, P1 with a 132.567. Ahead of Felix Herziger, Gilles Redmans, then Yasin Ferrari, Max Mugelli, Björn Grossman, Quinn Wittlisbach, and Vincenzo Scarpetta. They are the top 8 drivers in our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli contingent that will be taken to the track. And there is some happiness down there as Luigi then has garnered that pole position, Nico, and that means a lot to a driver. And I've always said this, and various drivers either enforce what I'm saying or say it makes no difference whatsoever, but I think from a confidence perspective and your mental well-being, when you've put it on P1, that's got to give you something for the race as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's the confidence that you've got the pace, that the team has the setup down, and you are in harmony with the car.
Absolutely.
So yeah, absolutely. Good showing from our Pirelli drivers, and we're only like 2 minutes away from Pirelli AM getting underway, so don't go anywhere. Stay with us. 20 minutes of Trofeo Pirelli AM qualifying coming up.
Can you translate?
Yeah. Discussion about how very close the gaps were as we take a few looks from that first part of Trofeo Pirelli qualifying.
Lovely little wrap of highlights from that session. So, as Nico alluded, the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers will be out next. Now, the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers have the white strip across the top of the windscreen, as you can see there, indicative of what class that they're racing in, as we look at the number 4 car of Andrew Morrow, who opened the account for the season very well at Monza by taking the win in race 1 in Trofeo Pirelli AM. There is the number 87 car of NM. And there you can see it in gold livery on the deeper gold colours across the Rosso Corsa racing car of NM. So Andrew Morrow, Herbert Guys, Gianmarco Marzialetti, Francesco Galli, Michael Verhagen, James Owen. Welcome back, James. Nobuhiro Imada, who was racing just last weekend in Suzuka. Henri Acide, Marco Sanazzi, Otto Blank, Hanno Luskowski, NM, who we've seen, and Armin Arifbour and Hendrik Viol. Those are all the drivers that take to our Pirelli AM class as we look at the number 44 car right now of Nobuhiro Imada, who, as I mentioned, Nico, has hot-footed here from Suzuka, where he was racing in the Japan series of the Ferrari Challenge, and as we've mentioned previously, we race with the Ferrari Challenge in Japan, in North America, in the UK, in Australasia, and of course here in Europe. Number 12, the car of Gianmarco Marzialetti. We were invited to share the buffet with them last night, which looked all enticing, but sadly we had other appointments which we had to get to. Hendrik Viol now making his way out of the garage for Scuderia Prague Racing, where we are under a constant invitation to have a glass of lemonade with that very vibrant and lively team. And talking of vibrancy and liveliness, ever more so in Pirelli AM, because we have 14 cars, almost double the number of cars in Pirelli AM as we saw in Pirelli for their qualifying session. There's the Maranello Motors driver Herbert Guys, another huge character. That character really, really enigmatic, and alongside his driver coach Harold Prochik, who is such a successful racing driver in his own right as well. It's a formidable combination, those two together. Yeah, this is going to be a good qualifying session, Nico. Very busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And we already saw in Monza how competitive also the Pirelli M class is, with whatever happens on the Saturday, not necessarily guarantee you anything for Sunday. With a great combination of drivers, including the addition of Henri Hassid, who was our Shell champion last year, and he also had a very interesting and formidable appearance in Monza. Not necessarily the results that he had hoped for, but certainly showed that he can take it to the Pirelli drivers. And going to be interesting how he performs here in Misano. The first 2.5 minutes have ticked off the clock. The first 6 or 7 drivers have filed out of the pit lane and are installing themselves and their cars.
Indeed so. And yes, 17.5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. So we'll see how we do. And there is the number 12 car of Gianmarco Marzialetti. So early stages of this, the drivers will use the laps as installation laps where they get the tyres, brakes, everything up to temperature, and get themselves up to temperature as well. And they'll put it all together, and we'll see the first meaningful lap times, I would suggest, coming in about 3, maybe 4 minutes time from now.
Indeed, as the track busies up with only 3 cars remaining in the pit lane. One of those is Hanno Laskowski, the other one is Marco Zanazzi, and Henrik Viol, who was center shot just a few moments ago. So we expect those to file out of pit lane when their teams and themselves feel like it's the right moment. 20 minutes is really, really short for the qualifying session. We haven't had any red flags in today here. It's been different on other occasions where the sessions were truncated and interrupted by red flags due to cars being stuck in the gravel, and that really changes the dynamic of a qualifying session, because if you're in your progress of installing and getting the tires up to temperature and then the red flag comes, you have to come back to the pit lane and do it all over again, and the time just mercilessly ticks away. So as we see more cars out on the track, all but one, Hanno Laskowski, now have filed out onto the pit lane, out of the pit lane, and it's a busy track with Otto Blank setting the first time, a not quite competitive yet, 1:47.251. Times are going to come down. Nobuhiro Imada is the next one to score on our timing screen. You will see the other cars in graphics on the left side of your screen in a moment.
Nobuhiro Imada, whilst in Suzuka, had the privilege of interviewing and speaking to Lewis Hamilton, of course, who's coloured very much red right now, and yeah, was chatting to Nobuhiro about that as Gianmarco Marzialetti goes P1 with a 1:43.501, but again, the times will come tumbling down. It's Gianmarco Marzialetti, Nobuhiro Imada, Otto Blank. And there you can see the number 88 car of Armin Arifpour, the Riller and Schnaut driver. There is the number 12 296 car, looking very, very good. James Owen has gone right to the top of the chart right now with a 1:41.668. So Gianmarco Marzialetti relegated to P2 for the moment, but as I say, those times not meaningful quite yet. We'll expect to see those times come down. James Owen, of course, Nico, who not so many months ago was hugely successful in the world final race at Imola. Well done, James. He's very much supporting his son, who's in karting as well at the moment. So Otto Blank goes P1 right now with a 1:43.78. So we're getting closer to where we expect to see the times to come. 14 minutes remaining, short, sharp qualifying. All but one of the cars are out there. Although I think I'm seeing that there's an S against the on our graphic, on our timing screen, an S against the James Owen car, which means that he had potentially stopped just for a moment, but gets it going again. So no stress or strife caused by that. So Otto Blank, Nobuhiro Imada, James Owen, Gianmarco Marzialetti, Francesco Galli, Herbert Geiss, Andrew Morrow, Michael Verhagen, Henri Hassid, Armin Arifpour. They are the top 10 at the moment, but Gianmarco Marzialetti has just gone P1. Here is Hendrik Viol, who had a really, really good season last season, and the fight between himself and Klaus Sebranson to the honours in Trofeo Pirelli AM was really enjoyable for us to talk about.
Yeah, that was riveting, and for a big portion of the season, the Hendrik Viol, who was very, very consistent, scored heavily, effectively throughout the entirety of the season, but Klaus Brunson had more of a hot and cold season, which sometimes can give you a lot of wins, but not yield enough points for the end of the season standings. But it was Klaus Brunson who eventually got really, really hot in terms of results and took the championship at the finale in Imola last year. But it was close.
It was good. It was close, and equally, Klaus didn't have it all his own way either, did he? You know, and that's what made it so enticing for us as James Owen goes quickest with a 1:35.136, and well, count all of that as naught, as Michael Verhagen has gone P1 with a 1:34.991 now. So Michael Verhagen going very, very quickly indeed for Ferrari Warsaw. We're looking at the number 40 car right now of James Owen. And James relegated to P2 at the moment for Meridian Modena and the Engstler team. His Sector 1 was a personal best. His Sector 2, he lost a bit of time in. So we'll see what James Owen can do right now as he rounds the final turn and heads to breaking the timing beam. He will have need to made up time in the final sector. And he did do that, but he was, so close, 4/100ths, although he did have a track limit warning against him. Thanks for pointing that out to me, Nico. Henri Acide, he's going well.
Yeah, Henri Acide, he, as we said, is our Shell champion, reigning Shell champion, and thereby was promoted to the Pirelli AM class. Had interesting races and interesting qualifying sessions last time around, including a small coming together with Michael Verhagen in one of the quali sessions, where the two were trying to get into Parabolica virtually at the same time on the same line, which didn't quite work. But Henri Acide has vaulted himself all the way up to the top of the standings. With only 11 minutes remaining, it's these 20-minute qualifying sessions compared to the 30 minutes which you get if you had the Pirelli and Pirelli AM combined, which gives you more track space in theory, but also just reduces your tactical ability to maneuver within those minutes allocated to you. That makes it really difficult.
James Owen is 9/1000ths quicker than anybody else at the moment. The Meridian Modena Engstler driver James Owen then looking very, very good. He's currently P4. Make that P6 actually. And here he goes, rounding the final turn. He's got Hendrik Viol ahead of him. That won't hamper his efforts as James Owen crosses the timing line and breaks that timing beam and loses time in the final sector. So we'll see how it develops. Now, also on an improvement trajectory is Henri Acide. He's currently third fastest. It's Michael Verhagen from Herbert Guys doing really well with a 1:33.821. There are only two drivers in the 33s, Herbert Guys and Michael Verhagen, and there's only 9/1000ths between them. Henri Acide is going to try and split them or vault both of them, like leapfrogging him as we used to do in those school athletics competitions with which I was so good. Not. And he isn't able to do that. It is Verhagen from Gies, from Francesco Galli. Then it is Henri Acide. Here comes Marco Zanazzi, who's currently P5. He lost time in the middle sector, but he made it up in the final sector, and he takes 3 3/4 out of the time of Michael Verhagen. Marco Zanazzi, there he is. He's P1 at the moment, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely, and our timing screen is alight with personal and overall best times, so expect lots of movement. This is really the time where things are moving, but it's also littered with track limit infraction warnings, so that means lots of times are taken away or disallowed. So it really is crunch time here in this session, where the drivers have the cars, have the tires up to perfect conditions, and this is where they can make their mark and put the best times, but they really, really are on the edge, and you can see that by virtue of the track limit warnings. Francesco Galli, first sector, very, very good. Second sector, okay. And that means he is still in with a shout to improve. Is it gonna be good enough for P1? We will see, but he has to keep it within the white lines. Final turn, there is some traffic, but it won't hamper him. P4 for the time being, 133, 193 is pole. The second sector really was what did it in for him.
Okay, into the Kessel garage we go right now with Marco Zanassi from Motor Service Panetti Motorsport P1. Here comes Zanassi then, hoping to improve still further. Sector 1, not good. Sector 2 was. No, he's about a 10th and 3/4 down on his previous best time. Henri Acide with minuscule adjustments being made to the tyre temperatures on the car of the number 67 driver, Henri Acide. Now, here comes Hanno Laskowski, another Emil Frey racing driver who's set a personal best in Sector 1, a personal best in Sector 2. He currently sits P7 for Hanno Laskowski as he heads towards the timing beam now. Is this going to elevate him from his P7 position? Well, no, and he lost time in the final sector. Henri Acide is going to be on his way out again in a moment with those, as I say, minor adjustments being made to tyre pressures. Marco Zanassi, Michael Verhagen, Hendrik Viol, Nobuhiro Imada. We're running the clock on right now. He's got traffic ahead of him. And Sector 1 was not brilliant for Nobuhiro Imada.
Yeah, Hanno Laskowski not only didn't have the final sector perfectly, he also had a track limit infraction there. So that lap time was disallowed, but he is going again one way or the other. There we follow Imada through that stadium section, and this is really where you can see tire degradation in the race, because when you really have the grip, you can take those turns very, very tightly. Once towards the end of the race, tire degradation figures, those very, very narrow radiuses really, really make a difference, and you see the cars sliding around. No such issues here in the qualifying, of course, but tire preservation really, really crucial when it comes to the balance between the best qualifying result and having the freshest tires possible for the race later.
Nobuhiro Imada moved up one position. Here's Hendrik Viol hoping to move up as well, although Sector 1 was not brilliant for the Scuderia Prague driver. Sector 2 was okay, in fact was a personal best. So it's P3 at the moment for Hendrik Viol, and it stays P3. Now, drivers out of position, there are one or two, Henri Acide and Andrew Morrow, but I can see that Henri Acide is making his way out of the pit lane right now. We stay on board with Hendrik Viol, who, as we mentioned in the program earlier on, had a real battle with Klaus Sebranson, and there is Hendrik. Had a real battle with Klaus Sebranson for the championship honours last season, so we expect him to be right up the top, right up at the sharp end of this qualifying session. Earlier on, right up at the sharp end was Michael Verhagen. He's currently second fastest, so he would like to improve one place if he could. This lap is not going to be the lap to do it, Nico.
No, it isn't. Michael Verhagen with a P2 and a P1 in Monza. Very, very good showing, and he replicates that. P2 for the time being, would so dearly love to make it P1. It's not going to be this lap that he does it on, though, but go in again. Also, Marco Zanassi, our current provisional pole setter, he's not satisfied. His second sector really, really good. Where will the third sector be?
He equaled his previous best time, Nico. It's very, very rare that you see that. The digits were 0.000. I mean, it was an utterly identical time.
Absolutely. So, theoretically, if that lap was disallowed, it would change nothing. It would still be exactly the same lap time, but no such indications. Henri Acide, he is currently in P6 after being at the top of the charts for a moment. Still very much pushing, and we're down to 3 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. And there you can see there is traffic ahead of him, not necessarily hampering on this lap, but it's the next lap that where whatever the other car in front of him might do, it could come into play. And that's where the team is so crucial. They could say, well, you're not really on a quick lap, you know, just let off a little bit, buy 2 or 3 more seconds, and you're safe for the next one.
Yeah.
That's where really where motorsport, obviously the driver has to pedal the car, but it is a team effort.
You're absolutely right, and that's crucial. Here's Nobuhiro Imada then, currently P9 in our qualifying. And the Formula Racing driver, 8 places behind Marco Zanassi at the moment, who is P1. Then it's Mikael Verhagen, who is P2. Hendrik Viol remains P3 ahead of Herbert Geis, P4. So Nobuhiro Imada then, beautiful colors across that 296 Challenge car. We have 2.5 minutes of this session remaining. We are running out of time for those drivers that are arguably out of position to try and post a lap that will put them nearer where they want to be, including this driver, Omri Assid. As Nico mentioned, Copa Shell champion last year, elevates to Trofeo Pirelli AM for this year. Omri Assid, very, very quick driver. Now, he is doing, in my opinion, exactly what Nico indicated earlier on, in that he's just eased off a little bit and he's going to go for it on the next lap. Well, out of the car right now and back into the garage is one driver who has decided enough is enough, and actually that's another calculation that has to be made by the drivers and the teams, Nico, and that is, do you stay out and take more rubber off those tires, or do you bank the car, park the car, feel you've done enough, and that gives you perhaps a little bit more longevity in terms of the tires for the race?
Yeah, absolutely. That is always, again, not a gamble necessarily, but it is a calculation that you have to make, and sometimes there is two good answers, and sometimes there are just two bad choices when whatever happens. And sometimes, yeah, only time will tell what's the best strategy. Imada is improving, going from P10 to P8. Hanno Laskowski is really having trouble with track limits. Already got 5 warnings and got 3 laps deleted for it. And that means he is in a relatively lowly P10 position.
But wins the race for the Track Limits Award.
Absolutely.
In qualifying.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the drivers do also get reprimands if they run foul of the track limits too often, and that will you effectively have a rap sheet as a driver, which gives you penalty points. And if you accumulate too many for incidents and track limits, you will get a grid drop later in the season.
And the problem is, of course, you kind of highlight your desire for photogeny. You know, the focus is going to be on, you know, if you've made so many, you know, yeah, you're going to be looked at, aren't you, during the race?
There is the wrong kind of attention in this case, definitely. As we see Omri Assid and Francesco Galli still battling, fighting for positions.
Is Henri going to be able to get another lap in, Nico?
I think he will. I think he will. He is in P6, so he just by 4 or 5 seconds crossed the timing line with time remaining, so he gets another shot at this. Hanno Laskowski, he is going again. No track limits to his name on this lap. Very, very good first sector, actually. So let's see if Hanno can get a late surge and move up the order. He definitely has the pace and the commitment. There is no question about that. And there we pick him up, the number 85 car.
Hanno Laskowski, who has won the award thus far, but is going quickly. Personal best through Sector 1. Sector 2, not quite so good. So, Hanno Laskowski, very, very good driver, tall driver, Emil Frey Racing. Francesco Galli still out there as well. Is Omri Assid, that we feel may have the potential to move himself up the order. It was the 35.7 through the first sector. Hanno Laskowski does improve 1 place. Andrew Morrow's parked the car for P7. At the moment, barring anybody else improving. Omri Assid then about to complete the second sector, but he's 6 1/4 tenths down. So Marco Zanassi for sure has done enough to bank pole position, Nico. Francesco Galli moves up to P3, and that knocks down Hendrik Viol, which just proves the point. And well done for picking up on Francesco Galli. It just proves the point that the session is not over until the final car has crossed the line, Nico. Things can change, but I think for this man, for Marco Zanassi, enough is done to give him P1 for qualifying. Well done, Marco.
Yeah, absolutely. All cars have either come to the pit lane or crossed the timing line and seen the checkered flag. So that means the number 69 car of Marco Zanazzi will be our pole setter and will start the race at the very front of the Pirelli AMs, which means they will line up behind the Pirelli car, so he won't be right behind the Richard Mille safety car. But in terms of class, he gets that 1.4 pole position and couldn't have wished for a better starting position from his qualifying session. Great job from him. Michael Verhagen continues his consistency. P2 again after finishing the races P1 and P2, and there is a result on screen for you.
And if you thought that was busy, stand by for the Copa Shell qualifying to come. But let's bring you the results from Trofeo Pirelli AM. Marco Zanazzi ahead of Michael Verhagen and Francesco Galli. Hendrik Vial, Herbert Guys, Henri Acid, Andrew Morrow, Nobuhiro Imada complete the first 4 rows. And they're ahead of Hanno Laskowski, NM, James Owen, Otto Blank, Gianmarco Mazziletti, and Armin Arefpour. Trofeo Pirelli AM qualifying is done. Stand by. Copa Shell will come next. From Nico and me for the moment, thank you. Welcome to qualifying for Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell here at the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli, which is host of round 2 of the Ferrari Challenge for 2025. There is the Misano circuit then. 4.2 kilometers. This is our calendar for 2025. We're here in Misano for round 2. Then we head off to Hockenheim, Brno, Valencia, Barcelona, Spa-Francorchamps. And we'll round the season out in October at the Finale Mondiale at Mugello. That's the way our 2025 calendar looks. But here in Misano then, I was mentioning the 4.2 kilometers, 16 turns, 6 left, 10 right. It's situated about an hour and a half from Bologna, maybe 2.25 from Florence. It's right on the Adriatic coast, so it's a real holiday destination and somewhere where actually the weather over the days that we have been here have meant that actually you could get on the beach and really enjoy yourself, which clearly we've had no time to do because we're very busy. And we, it's a nice place. I think it becomes really vibrant with holidaymakers probably from next weekend. Welcome back to Motohiko Isasaki, who was racing just last weekend in Japan. There you can see all of the drivers that will be taking part in this qualifying session, including Oscar Rinčević, Christian Kinch, Tibor Valint, Zoe Skrimpias. Welcome back to Tibor Valint, incidentally. John Dillon, Thomas Gosner, Fabrizio Fontana. And then we'll also see Cristiano Machel, Corinna Gosner, von Skeltermar, Jan Sandman, and Manuela Gosner. So it's a big grid or a big pack of 13 cars that will have 30 minutes on this tarmac as we look at Zoe Skrimpias putting his fireproof balaclava on right now. And Zoe Skrimpias, who was very dominant in Copa Shell AM last year to the point where he took the Copa Shell AM championship and has been elevated to Copa Shell for this year. His wife, partner, Germano Toniella, is racing in Copa Shell this year. Copa Shell AM, I should say. There's Fabrizio Fontana, who was equally dominant in the 488 Challenge last year, winning that championship. And here he is in a 296 Challenge car. And this is Manuela Gosner, who is in the car and ready to go. She's very early stages of this qualifying. She's going to get out there and do what she can. She had if I'm honest, can I say lackluster Monza, Nico? It didn't go where you would expect to see the very fast young lady.
Yeah, I think it's very fair, and she definitely shared that sentiment on social media. Had different things that didn't go her way in Monza, and she is definitely on track and trying to rectify that. Similar story for John Dillon, who had better results, but not quite where he left off last year, it has to be said. So it's a very, very interesting mix in terms of Copa Shell. You already said Zoe Skrimpias elevated from the Shell AM as a champion, Fabrizio Fontana from the 488, the previous incarnation of the challenge car, and he kept on going where he left off last year, taking the win in the first race. So new challenges, new complexion in the championship in this category. So we would have expected Manuela Gosner much higher up the order than she finished, but Misano is a new chance, and we definitely expect her to fight for podiums and potentially wins.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. And there she is then, focus and concentration then. As we look at Oscar Rinčević, he's in the all-black car following Motohiko Isasaki, and not following Motohiko Isasaki now as he goes by. So we say there are a couple of returning drivers then. Motohiko Isasaki is one of those. Tibor Valint, another one. And it's a welcome back to Philip Barron, who's back in the paddock then, looking after Tibor Valint. And the Barron Motorsport team, Philip Barron, like many other drivers, hugely successful in his own right in days of yore, years gone by. But he can still mix it up, and in fact was mixing it up out there on track just last year. Welcome return to Corinna Gosner. And here is Corinna then in the 173 car. Corinna Gosner for the CDP MP racing team. She is 1/3 of the Gosners that will be contesting this race, as Thomas Gosner is another one of them. The 296 Challenge car making its way out of the garage and sounding awesome. Absolutely awesome. There was Tibor Valint, you could see, who I was speaking of just a few moments ago. The 171 car is driven by Cristiano Marchel. And Cristiano Marchel with a very creditable P7 and P4 out of Monza. He'll be hoping to spin some improvement on that for the FBO Motorsports team. So we'll see what he can do here at Misano. Of course, the track is so different to the Temple of Speed where we kicked off the season, Nico, and drivers and teams having to adapt themselves to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cristiano Marchel, definitely one of the very visible drivers last time around, as we have another look at Manuela Gosner, as she bides her time, waits for the right moment to go out and go about her qualifying business. Obviously, the track is evolving with the sun. We saw the weather data a little bit earlier. And with already 3 qualifying sessions already and qualifying and testing already through the week, the track is really well rubbered in. So it's only going to get quicker.
The man we were looking at just a few moments ago before we switched our camera to Corinna Gosner and run the clock on Corinna Gosner was Christian Kinch in unfamiliar colours, a Rosso Red 296 Challenge, who he was very happy with himself from Monza because, of course, it was Monza when he started his Ferrari Challenge career where he took his first podium, and it was at Monza last time out where he took his first win at that track. He's been a winner before, but to win at Monza, as he said, the only thing I can say is, Mamma Mia. Motohiko Isazaki right now. We're watching who's second fastest, but the times are not meaningful yet. It'll be a few minutes into the session before we see meaningful times from the 13 drivers that will contest this qualifying session, which will give them their grid places for race 1 to come this evening. For our Copa Shell drivers. A big gap between their qualifying session and their racing. And the Corners Motors Shiba driver Motohiko Isazaki, who, if you want to wander around the paddock at a Ferrari Challenge event, and I would urge you to do that because it's one of the most friendly paddock places to be, you will not find more enthusiasm than that of this driver, Motohiko Isazaki. Does a lot of racing, does a lot of driving, and loves every single second of it. And by Jiminy, he's quick on this lap. So I'm predicting a P1 time from Motohiko Isazaki, but of course it is in the very early stages of qualifying. I might have put a commentator's curse on that because he's just getting a time deletion because of track limits in turn 8, Nico. So from that point of view, you can see what a broadcast commentator can do to a driver's prowess out there, so I'll shut up.
Well, but Motohiko Isazaki is showing that he has the pace in the car, and in fairness, probably this is wouldn't have been the lap that he would have hoped to have stick on the timing screen come the end of the session, but obviously having a banker in there is always better than to not have the banker. And having had the banker is Oskar Rinčević with a 1:37.135, but he is pushing forward and trying to improve on that time. As you can see, Motohiko Isazaki's time has been deleted and he is relegated to no time. Oskar Rinčević now in the second sector, coming through that hairpin in the middle of the lap, and now on that long straight with the kink in the middle where that second sector line is, a 1 second to the good of his own previous best time. And now he's in that stadium section with the triple right and then the 2 left-handers taking him back out onto the start-finish straight. This is really, really interesting. Not necessarily an overtaking position on the track, although we have seen adventurous moves into those. But it really, really shows come the race where tire degradation will make a difference.
I think you're being very polite there with very adventurous moves. Unorthodox would be another polite description.
Absolutely.
Silly would be another word to use sometimes, but, you know, heck. Here comes Motohiko Isazaki. Surely, Nico, this time everything is okay?
Yeah, everything is good, and indeed it shows purple, and he bolts to the top of the timing screen, if only by 7/100ths over Oskar Rinčević. But here is our enigmatic, uber enthusiastic Motohiko
Uber enthusiastic, you're right.
Isozaki in his 296 challenge. Really, really great to see him race the tracks in Japan, in Europe. Always a great guy, inside the cockpit and outside.
Absolutely, and yeah, he's a very, very talented driver. Christian Kinch has gone P1 right now, Nico, with a 1:35.539, taking 2/10 out of Motohiko Isozaki. But I predict over the next 21.25 minutes that we'll see more times come tumbling down, and therefore perhaps different names at the top of the graphics that you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. Thomas Gosner is the best of the Gosner family at the moment, P5, with Corinna Gosner P6. Yet to see a meaningful time from Manuela Gosner. In fact, we're yet to see meaningful times from Tibor Valent and Zoe Skrimpias and John Dillon and Fabrizio Fontana, von Skeltermar, Jans Hammond and Manuela Gosner, as Oskar Rinčević responds to Christian Kinch by 3.5 tenths and gives us a 1:35.197. Can we expect times in the 1:34s? Yes, of course we can. And we'll get them before the end of the session, I think.
I think that's not too adventurous prediction, as Christian Kinch is already pushing and trying to edge closer to that mark. Through 2 sectors, he was about 6/100ths quicker than the best time, and was really, really right on that exit. And now the final left-hander. Lots of track limits have happened here at the penultimate turn.
Yes.
Turn 15 is alongside turn 8 have been the pinch points in terms of Claudio Garavini and race control. And indeed, Christian Kinch goes quicker and makes your prediction become a reality.
He also won at paddle the other. He was playing with his driver coach Daniele Diamato, a little game of paddle, and he won that as well. Or he and Daniele won that. I'm sure it was more down to Daniele than him. Christian will not punish me for saying that. Right, Oskar Rinčević is going to respond here, Nico, because he's got purple sector 1, purple sector 2, no track limits infractions to my knowledge. Therefore, this seesaw battle that's going on between Kinch and Rinčević continues, as going across the timing line now. Oskar did not do it. He lost time in the final sector, Nico.
You build it up so nicely, and
build me up, Buttercup.
But it's going to come again, and Cristiano Maciel takes over and puts it onto P1 with other purple sectors and very, very good sectors from the likes of Thomas Gosner are coming. Christian Kinch is responding. So expect the rankings on the left-hand side of your screen to change very, very rapidly, and about to do something about that is potentially Christian Kinch with the all-red car. He said, wait for it, next round it'll be back to its normal traditional colors, but the very classic all-red for Christian Kinch works pretty nicely, not interfering with quick times in any shape or form, and it's back to P1 for Christian.
Well done, Christian. 1:34.706, 1:34.904, 1:34.980. They are the top 3 times, and they are from Christian Kinch, Cristiano Maciel, and Motohiko Isozaki. So great job being done by these drivers right now. Maciel and Isozaki are fighting over P2 right now in qualifying. We've got just under 18 minutes of this qualifying session remaining, so there are still times to come from the likes of John Dillon and Zoe Skrimpias and Manuela Gosner, who we expect to see at the sharp end of our qualifying times. So it's not all over yet by any means. Still lots more entertainment to come before the end of this qualifying session. You're live from Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli with Nico and Dave on the early morning rave, bringing you the qualifying session that is being led by Christian Kinch And this man, Cristiano Marchel, is currently P2. That looks beautiful. Some brilliant shots and a brilliant shot of the very sharp teeth on the shark-fronted car of von Skeltemer, who is currently P9. Expect him to be much higher up the order. He podiumed in Monza, and he was delighted to be back where he expects to be, and that's regularly on the podium. Von Skeltemer in the 177 car. Let's see how he does.
Yeah, Fons was back onto P3, and he's been such a long-standing campaigner in the challenge. There is already, you can see traffic, and maybe that played a part in Corinna Gostner maybe just losing a little bit of focus there, avoiding the John Dillon car in front of her. But no harm, no foul, slides around.
Looks nice there, doesn't it? It was, in fairness, I think Corinna was doing that for our entertainment value, just to see the beautiful opposite lock control as she handled that donut wonderfully.
296 ballet crew coming to a racing circuit near you. No, obviously Corinna Gostner, good to have no impact, and she just continues and goes about her ways. Thomas Gostner, in the meantime, improved up to P5, and there is Fabrizio Fontana, champion in the 488 in 2024, the outgoing champion, the last champion in the 488 in Europe anyway.
Yes.
He has taken to the 296, and he said it's a different car, it's very challenging, but you couldn't have told it based on Saturday at Monza. I
agree with you. He is such a good driver. His driving background, actually, he's on the loose stuff. It was rallying, but Stefano Gaius, we split the picture, is his driver coach. And in fairness, Fabrizio and Stefano have competed together at times in the past, and well, they are a formidable combination, but he on his own is pretty sharp as well, as he goes P1 with a 134.529. 134.529 from our 488 Challenge champion from last year. Here comes Thomas Gostner. What will Christian Kinch and Cristiano Marchel and Motohiko Isesaki do in response to the Fabrizio Fontana time? Well, we've got just under 15 minutes to find out. Thomas Gostner improves the place and goes to P5 right now in the 161 car. It's all looking pretty good. Let's ride on board with the Formula Racing driver, John Dillon. Personal best Sector 1, personal best Sector 2. John, a race winner in Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell, and we would always expect to see him right at the top end of the table. By his own admission, Monza was not where he wanted to be. Is Misano going to be more to John's liking? It's P11 at the moment for the Formula Racing driver as he improves to P8, so he's on an improvement trajectory. Another lap to come from John, although he's had a track limits issue in turn 15. So that's unfortunate. Fabrizio Fontana is improving still further, Nico. He's middle sector, a purple color. So Fabrizio is improving. So too is Christian Kinch, who's P3 at the moment. Who's going to cross the line first? Well, really interestingly, the Fabrizio Fontana color scheme is very similar to the original Christian Kinch color scheme. So you'll forgive us if we get confused once or twice, but this is Christian Kinch. Is he going to go from P3 and improve? Indeed he does, up to P2. There's only a tenth and a bit in it.
Absolutely, and Manuela Gostner, who was for a moment up there in P2, then P3, had her third good time deleted due to track limits, and her sister Corinna already has 4 track limit excursions to her name, so...
Okay. They like those.
Well, not really, I guess, but there is certainly a trend there, and Manuela Gostner, who, as we said, just was very much high up the order in the position where we expect her to be, back down to P13 with no official time on the board. And we talked about her Monza exploits. She definitely needs a very, very good result today. So it's about regrouping, and she's got all the experience in the world. So she knows how to pedal this car, she knows how to deal with the Misano circuit.
Yes.
She just has to put it together and stay on the right side of the white lines, and I'm sure she will do it.
Fabrizio Fontana has slowed considerably. because he is P1 at the moment, and he's being advised just to take almost a reconnaissance lap and a slowdown lap before going again, potentially. What have we got? 12 minutes of the session remaining. Here is Zoe Skrimpias then, last year's Copa Shell AM champion. Zois at the moment is fifth quickest. His Sector 1 was a personal best. His Sector 2 was not coloured in any direction other than grey, which will be disappointing for him. But he crosses the timing line and improves to P2. So that all came together nicely in the third sector. Well done, Zois Skrimpias. He has now put himself into that party for the pole position award by, he's just only 8 100ths down on the Fabrizio Fontana time. So Zois Skrimpias means business. Also meaning business is John Dillon. He is P6 at the moment, personal best through Sector 1. Sector 2 was not where John would like it to be necessarily, as yet another lap time deletion goes the way of Manuel Agosta. Here comes John Dillon. We ride on board with the Formula Racing driver as he heads to break the timing beam right now, and John Dillon, P6, moves up another couple of places. Cool, calm consistency coming out of John Dillon, who's improving places on every lap.
Yeah, absolutely. He lost a little bit of time on the second sector, so maybe there was traffic or something that didn't just go right the way he wanted. So certainly has the pace, and it will be interesting what he can do the next time around. As Fabrizio Fontana, first sector, purple, second, so-so. And I think he has slowed down and will probably come into the pit lane or regroup for another go. As Zois Skrimpias, we saw him in P2.
He slowed too.
Also has slowed down. He obviously engineered by the Reparto Corsa Ram team, which is the same that engineers Manuel Agostner. So the team have multiple hot irons, if you will, and both of them are very, very quick. Manuel Agostner, as we already said, hasn't put it all together yet, with 5 track limit warnings to her name. And John Dillon, he is attacking currently P5, but you can see on the graphics that he is really, really good and great onward shot now. You can experience that stadium section.
Sector 1, blue. Sector 2, purple. John Dillon, the telemetry being run on the 151 car as well, as he's P5 at the moment. You hear the Pirellis protest at everything that John is putting through that car right now in his quest to get right up the order. Final turn is done. It's now the race to the timing line from P5 for the Formula Racing driver John Dillon. The consistency continues. He improves a further place to P4, which is where he was, but he'd been pushed back by another driver that had gone quicker. So John Dillon looking very, very promising in this qualifying session that he's led by this man, Fabrizio Fontana. Then it is Zois Skrimpias P2, Christian Kinch is P3, John Dillon, who we rode on board with just a few moments ago, P4.
Runs very wide on that exit, so I don't think this is necessarily going to be an improvement, because it was really, really wide there, and there you can see track limits for Fabrizio Fontana, so that lap won't be an improvement, whatever the clock says when it stops. But he holds on to P1s, only 8 100ths of a second.
And here comes Zois Skrimpias trying to respond to that. Can he find enough to go from P2, from P1 for Zois Skrimpias? Oh, 6 100ths down, Nico. That is closer than a close thing. Now where did he?
A little bit of a sideways
well,
movement in that.
There's got to be 6 100ths there, hasn't there?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, but I mean, still impressive. Both Fabrizio Fontana and Zois Skrimpias, until the beginning of last year, hadn't done any circuit racing.
No,
Fabrizio Fontana had done rallying. Zois had done no racing at all, and is really, really impressive.
Interior decorating he'd been doing.
Or something like that.
Not to Germana's taste, as I recall.
We had a great, for those who didn't watch it, we had a great feature in our Monza program about the two of them. Go back and find it on YouTube or wherever. Really, really great features. Very, very interesting dynamic between the two of them.
Yes.
That's really, really great characters, both of them. And very, very good races, both of them.
I agree. Well, he's done another personal best through Sector 1, so We've still got 7.5 minutes. And he got that corner very wrong. Still 7.5 minutes of this session remaining, so still work to be done out there for some of the drivers. And please don't think that we're finished with this qualifying yet, because I really don't think we are, as car number 193 attracts a further lap time. How many is that for Manuela? 7?
Yeah.
There's one part of the track which is just not working for Manuela, I would say.
Yeah, it is this track, turn 15, so that the penultimate turn, and there Fabrizio Fontana with a lot of momentum exiting from that turn. And with a lot of speed and momentum goes through the turn here. It's this interior second longest straight where he was just now, and now running to that very, very long hairpin almost, which is the middle of sector 2, and then you really have to be on the throttle early coming out of that turn, because it's a very long straight and a kink. And
while you're watching Fabrizio, forgive me, Nico, Zois has gone P1.
By less than 7/100, so Fabrizio Fontana dropped from P1 to P2. I don't think he'll be able to respond on this lap, but we have just under 6 minutes remaining in this session. He is going to go again.
So apologies for the rudeness of interrupting you, but Zois had crossed that line, and yeah, the fight is on now between Fabrizio and Zois, and as you rightly say, it's not going to be this lap that Fabrizio Fontana is able to respond. However, will he do it on the next lap? So Zois Grempias at the moment provisionally P1 ahead of Fabrizio Fontana, who we're watching. Then it's Christian Kinch, and then it is John Tillon. There's a very grumpy looking Stefano Guy, and he'll be grumpy because of this. You can almost hear Stefano saying to Fabrizio, I told you, I told you. How many times have I told you? You've got to keep it, you know. Well, let's see what Fabrizio Fontana can do. His sector 1 is not good, but according to our timing, he's actually on a trajectory of goodness here.
Yeah, actually, you know, the color codes can be very helpful, can be deceiving. If you're 1/1000th slower than your last attempt, which was the best of all, that just means it's neither a personal best, it's neither an overall best. So it's just a regular sector, and it can be just 1/1000th off the pace. So let's see where he clocks in after 2 sectors.
He's just made I'm sorry to say, he made a mistake in the last turn, Nico. I could see. We have into our studio here. We've got lots of screens, and I could see the emotion on his driver coach, Stefano Guy, who held his hands up in exasperation because he could see that Fabrizio was on an improvement, and then it all went wrong in one particular turn. So this is not going to be the lap, as who has that gone around? That's just on the exit of the final turn. Fabrizio takes avoiding action, and there you can see Stefano Guy, who is looking lackluster in terms of his enthusiasm. And there you can see, getting so sideways was the car of Oskar Rinčević.
Yeah.
And actually pirouetting in the wrong direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a great pace back in Monza. Not quite replicating that for the moment in P7. Also not replicating the speed from Monza is Jan Sandman, who's down in P12.
I agree. Yeah, there are drivers that are not where we would expect them to be, including this lady, Manuela Gosner, who, if she could manage to keep it within the white lines, Nico, I think would be really, really quick. However,
she just picked up track limit warning number 10.
That is, yeah. And the trouble is, you know, apart from the attracting the track limits, which means your lap is gone, actually, that's another lap's worth of rubber that you've sacrificed, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we know how good and experienced the driver Manuela Gosner is.
Unquestioned.
And she is multiple race winner in the Ferrari Challenge and super successful racing in Ferrari, and has been a part of the championship for many years. And there is a replay of her, and you know, again.
I mean, it's really close, isn't it? But you know, rules are rules, Nico.
Yeah, and I mean, we said that if you have a good qualifying, it builds your confidence. Now, Manuela, I'm sure if there is a driver who can regroup and put it all together again, it's her.
Dig deep.
But going out of the car and having 10 track limits to your name, not necessarily confidence building. But anyway, we will surely see her back at her very, very best later today and in the race later on. John Dillon, P4 for the time being, and we go back on board through that first sector onto that back straight and on the rear end of the start-finish straight, that left-hander out onto that straight. You really have to be close to the inside, not run out too far. There you can see the grandstand. Oh, actually, sorry, that is already the end of the lap, and indeed, John Dillon goes up to P3.
It's this very, very organic increase of pace with every single lap that we're seeing with John. There's no huge dramatic improvements. He's doing it little by little by little. Up to P3, you're quite right. Here's Fabrizio Fontana then, dissatisfied with P2, Nico. This lap is not going to be the one that takes him to P1. But with just 56 seconds remaining, he's going to be able to go again. And that's what he's going to do. It's going to be the last lap dash, isn't it, for Fabrizio Fontana. And he's about to start that last lap dash right now.
Yeah, as we said, this time not the one that troubles Zoe Scrimpius for P1, but now it's on. Fabrizio Fontana going again. There is the Reparto Corsa Ram team engineering Manuel Agosta, also engineering Zoe Scrimpius, our provisional pole setter, obviously watching the time and watching what Fabrizio does on track. It would be Zoe's first pole position in Shell.
Yes, you're right.
Had a number of them, obviously, last year in Shell AM. First sector, I would say it looks like that first pole is becoming more likely rather than less.
I would agree with that. However, there are still 2 sectors for Fabrizio to do. What can he make up? Where can he make up time? It's Scrimpias, Fontana, Dillon, the top 3 at the moment. The checkered flag is out on the session. Any driver that has started a lap can continue the lap. And we saw Fabrizio Fontana cross the timing line with enough time, not elapsed, to allow him to do another lap. That's the lap he's on, but I'm sorry to say, Nico, at 1.1 seconds down, he's not going to find 1.1 in the final sector. This is done.
This is done. Zoe Scrimp is actually with a very good first sector, but his team will tell him, you can ease off. There is no need to stress the tires. Well, he did complete the second sector and was still very, very quick. A quick shout out to Thibaut Valent, who got the Pirelli P0 Tire Preservation Award in this session, where other drivers have done 13, 14, 16 laps. He only did 6 and put in a very creditable P6, so he was really efficient.
That's going to give him great tires in the race, isn't it?
Absolutely.
He's going to be one to watch from there. It's only, it's effectively a third row start, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and he effectively saved half a race of tires worth, almost. That also, Zoe Scrimpius, great shout out to him. Our first pole position in Copa Shell for Zoe Scrimpius. Germana Toniella certainly not unhappy with her husband's performance.
No, you're right. She'll be pleased with that. And yes, well done, Zoe Scrimpius then. Fabrizio Fontana pushed and pushed and pushed and tried very hard. However, it was P2 for Fabrizio and P3 for John Dillon. Number of drivers out of position, which means that it's going to be very entertaining come race time. There's Zoe Scrimpias then, the Ineco Reparto Corsa Ram team driver, has successfully achieved his first pole position in Copa Shell. There is the very disappointed Manuel Agosna, who certainly found the track very difficult. John Dillon did a great job. He's on the second row of the grid, P3. He's just looking and analysing the data from other drivers. Fabrizio gets out, and Stefano is not quite as grumpy with him as I thought he might be. Because these driver coaches, they take it very personally, Nico. You know, they want to see their drivers succeed, and Right, here's confirmation of the result. Zois Grimpias P1. Congratulations, Zois. Fabrizio Fontana P2, then John Dillon P3, ahead of Christian Kinch. Thomas Gosner, Tibor Valent, then it is Cristiano Marchel and Oskar Rinčević. And they're ahead of Manuela Gosner, Motohiko Isasaki, Jan Sandman, von Skeltemer, and Corinna Gosner, P12 and P13. Copa Shell qualifying done and dusted. It's the long haul that stand by from a broadcasting perspective and a race entertainment and enjoyment perspective. We've got the races to come, and we've got other qualifying sessions to come as well. I mean, it's a packed day of activity here at Misano, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go racing for what these drivers just qualified for, there will be another set of qualifying sessions from 2 p.m. local time, so just 2.5 hours or so. No rest for the wicked ones. Nobody better than Zois Grimpias in this qualifying session. A 1:34.041, the best time we saw in Copa Shell. And we will see you in, well, 2.5 hours time.
Oh, yes, as you said, no rest for the wicked, and boy, we've been bad. See you shortly for more qualifying. Bye-bye for now.